You are watching and listening to the Two Chumps Football Podcast. That's Emil, Calamino. I'm Chad Wilson. We are headlong into the NFL playoffs. We're through the first round here. We're on our way, and we're down to the brass tacks in college football, as we know who are going to be showing up in the final game, and it's no one from the SEC. What? I think we made a mistake.
Wait,
Back.
that's 2 years in a row. We have no one from the SEC.
That's 2 years in a row. Absolutely right. SEC, you have to respond in 2025. Figure it out. Do something. Get a bigger bag. Cheat more. Do something. All right? You can't be sitting here with back-to-back years, no SEC.
By the way, how do you cheat in college football these days?
I don't even know, man.
Is there a way to cheat?
I don't even think there is.
Do they still require you to go to school? I'm being honest.
Find an Arabian prince that will throw so much money at this thing that is just out of control. Which, by the way, I think Deion Sanders tried to do that.
By the way, I think that's the next thing coming. We're sitting here laughing as we open the show. You know how you like soccer? You know, like they get the Saudi Arabians to own Man City.
Yes, absolutely.
At what point do we get a Saudi Arabian?
$222 million a year.
We get a Saudi Arabian booster.
It's going to happen.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Listen, Emil, if they don't get this thing under control, we're going to have foreign entities owning college football teams, essentially owning college football teams. Mind you, not knowing the rules. But anyway, that is the case. It's Notre Dame and Ohio State in the final game. Do Emil and I agree on who the winner of this is going to be? You'll have to stick around and find out. Also, we've got some playoff games, obviously, 4 of them to be exact. Emil and I pick 3 of them. Will we agree? Will we disagree? Definitely something for you to find out. And briefly, we will talk about how we did. Matter of fact, why don't we just jump into that right now? Emil, we made some college football picks last week, albeit not from very many games. It was 2 college football playoff games. We picked them. How did we do?
And here's what I want to do this week, too. When we give our pick, I do want to give a final score for us.
Okay.
So
a final score like on
the college football. Who will win the game and then cover, okay? So you could have 2 answers here, okay? So last week, we'll start with the good. Well, it was a great week last week overall, okay? When you see our pro record,
yes.
If you follow us last week, you met your man somewhere if you're not online at Bovada, where you should be, because that's guaranteed. But if not, you met in some parking lot.
Yeah, if you're still going to the back of the pizza parlor, like, come on.
Yeah, and he's dropped on the back. Chad here had 2 winners last week. Notre Dame, great pick, great game. I mean, it could have went either way. I think, let's be honest, Penn State probably boogered that game up a little bit for you. I mean, they did some stuff to help Notre Dame, but you had the winner. That's all that matters. You cashed the ticket, and then you had Ohio State, as did I. That game was closer than the score. There was a big play at the end. If anybody who's watching the show probably saw the play, of course, the scoop and fumble return, 14-point win. But that was nip and tuck. So you were 2-0. You got your college record of 25-29. Not good, but when I tell them your pro record later, really good year for you. Me, I had Ohio State like you. I was 1-1. My loss, I felt, was a difficult one. I mean, that Penn State Notre Dame game, I had under 44.5. It was 10-3 at the half.
And you think you're golden at that point, but
Chad, it was just the way the game was being played. I mean, it had the feel of just like there's not going to be a lot of points. And then I felt a little apprehensive when Notre Dame came out of the locker room and kind of boom, 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 right down the field, 10-10.
Right.
And where I said boogered the game up, with 7 minutes left, Penn State had a 24-17 lead. And frankly, at this point, Notre Dame is not kicking a field goal. So if Penn State can stop Notre Dame, I probably get the under, but you get a loss, so that doesn't really help us overall. Notre Dame had to hit their longest pass play of the season. Believe it or not, that 54-yard touchdown pass was the longest pass play of the Notre Dame season. So I took a loss. I'm 21-33 in college. No good. My pros, I redeemed myself. So let's jump right to the national championship game. And rather than each of us give our pick, let's talk about it a little bit. This is obviously 2 teams that like to play defense. So what do you think?
I would agree. And on the surface, it seems like one team is so much better on offense than the other. But I'm I'm not sure about that. And kind of, the feeling that I get is like Ohio State, they generated a tremendous amount of momentum after that opening playoff
Yeah.
win, and looked unstoppable. And then they carried that into the next round, but I kind of felt like the momentum slowed enough there. And I feel like the odds maker has made a line based on the peak speed that Ohio State.
Well, you know that you make a great point. The delineation in the playoff run that Ohio State had, at least for me, and I think you make a great point here, was halftime of the Oregon game. Halftime of that game, right before half, I think the score was 28-0. Oregon scored 28-7. And then they went down and scored to start the second half. The final score in the game ended up like 41-21. I think at half it might have been 34-7. I'm not sure. My point is, halftime of that game, Ohio State was in complete control. Second half, they almost took the second half off. And from that point forward, and that's why I led with this, the score in that game against Texas is deceiving. Yeah. I mean, that was a close ball game.
Right, no doubt about it. And while Ohio State, look, we could go on and on about the weapons. We know what Jeremiah Smith brings to the table. I would say, they did a really good job at Texas in defending him, taking him out of the game. And once that was done, what did they really have? I'm a little concerned by that because there is a blueprint there for Notre Dame to follow that could kind of, hey, look, we're gonna put the game on everyone else. We're gonna take Jeremiah Smith out of this thing, and we're not gonna let him go crazy and have these explosive plays that ran Oregon right out of the game and off the field. And I think Notre Dame is perfectly capable of putting together a game plan like that. And I gotta say, Emil, I just never thought I would fix my mouth to say these words, but I've been impressed with Al Golden. All right.
No,
he didn't do much for my school when he was down here as a head coach, but I've been impressed with the former tight end, now defensive coordinator, and what he's been able to do.
Oh, you're 100%. I think he's done a great job. My fear, and I was just gonna, you kind of beat me to it, but you went more granular and specific. My fear in this game, if I'm an Ohio State supporter, is I feel Notre Dame's coaching staff has a big advantage. I'm not a big Ryan Day fan. I think he can recruit, and yeah, I mean he'll win the games where he runs on the field with more talent. But if you look at the games they get in with teams that are pretty close to them, they have struggles. I mean,
yeah, and it's troublesome struggles for me. I'm concerned by them. I remember thinking this, and I don't like when this happens when I see what a potential line might be. But I want to say it was at halftime of I want to say the Notre Dame game, or no, at the end of the Notre Dame game, they posted up what Notre Dame would possibly be if Texas or Ohio State came in. And I remember seeing the line saying that Ohio State would be like 7.5, 8. And then I watched the Ohio State game, and when we got out of halftime and I'm watching it, I'm like, I don't know if that's a number that they could cover. I think they look like they'll get into that game and keep it nip and tucking. It'll have to come down to a kicker, or the game will go to overtime. It just feels like that's where this thing's going.
I'm going to say that, and it's not even these two teams. I think the team this year that's, when he looks back on it's probably going to regret his decision is going to be Texas. I think Texas kind of crapped away a chance at a national championship this year by not using Arch Manning more throughout the year, because I think in the end,
I can't agree with you more, man.
I think if that kid had played enough and was either the starter or co-quarterback, they probably would be playing in this game, because I'm going to tell you, I'm not a big Ewers fan. I think there's just something that my eyes tell me. He's almost like a Sam Darnold in the pros. You hit me with a text the other night, Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. I think that kid, for some reason, at certain points, he doesn't get rid of the ball. There's a clock that's missing in his head, and it was evident on the play that ended the game. I mean, there's just something with him that it just,
I don't know co-quarterbacks. I don't know if that works really, but if you could package them, one of the best packages that we've ever seen was Tim Tebow the year
Yeah.
the league was there. If you can do something like that, because surprisingly, considering that he's a Manning, he is athletic and he can run with the football. So if you bring that, and then he also is not just a threat throwing the ball, he can throw the ball. So if you just found little instances and where to insert him in the game and change the defense's mindset, it might.
What about the end of that game? You're first and goal on the 1 or 2 yard line.
Get him in the game.
If you have a package for him where he is the quarterback for that set, that's going to be hard to defend.
Yeah, because you're saying with Ewers in, if we could take away the run here, we got a chance of this kid holding a ball there and a negative play happening and getting them further back. And that's kind of just what happened, rather than I've got Arch Manning in, and it's going to happen right here at the line of scrimmage, one thing or the other, and we're probably going to get in here. It really would have helped him in the red zone to have him there. So I think, Emil, what I'm saying here is, if I think the game's going to be this close, and obviously I love 8 points. I think Notre Dame can match Ohio State along the lines of scrimmage. They don't have as many explosive players, at least not in the passing game. They can be explosive in the run game if Ohio State doesn't, fill a gap here or there. And I just think they'll do enough. This will be a back and forth, Ali Frazier, that type of, Leonard Hagler type of thing. That's the kind of game I'm seeing. I don't see Ohio State running away with it, as the line here suggests. I don't know how you see it.
So give me a final around.
Like a 20-17. 23-20, let's say, because I don't trust really super low scores.
Here's what's funny with your analysis. In theory, I agree with almost everything you said.
Yes.
My problem is I think there's two things that become decisive in this game, and I don't think it's a blowout by any means, but I'm going to take Ohio State minus the 8. We're going to go be against each other. Mm-hmm. I see the score being like 26-13, and here's what I see as the problem for Notre Dame. They have at least one, probably 2 starting offensive linemen out of this game, which is why I was so hard on Penn State and the way Franklin coached that game the other night. That game should, if you go to overtime, of course you don't know what's going to happen, but that game should have favored Penn State in overtime. They had a couple backs that were teeing off. They ran the ball for 200 yards. You get in that confined space in overtime. The running game becomes important. Notre Dame's down 2 offensive linemen, and they battled the flu all week. Now, they go forward. The flu's gone. The 2 offensive linemen aren't back. And overall, since the beginning of the year, they're out, I think, 4 starters on defense. I think eventually that's just a confluence of events that if Ryan Day doesn't do a Michigan here, I think he's got...
Do you worry about him in a big game like this?
Yes. I worry because I watched the Michigan game. He has better players than everybody, but yet he lost the game to his rivals 13-10. It's not even like you could sit there and go, oh, well, the kids weren't communicating on defense. We lost 38-35. He literally went out there with that receiving core and scored 10 points. And
I'm wondering if Notre Dame is the kind of team that gives him problems, like Michigan gave him problems. They had no problem with the Oregon team that is like explosive, high-powered offense, but a physical, grind-you-out team, they seem to have issues with. So that is a concern for me. So you're Ohio State. I'm Notre Dame. We'll see how this goes.
I don't think it's a great bet either way. I'll be honest. If you want to, everybody who watches this stuff is probably going to throw a couple bucks one way or another. It's not something I'd load the wagon up for, because at the end of the day, I think we are talking about a game that's 3 to 5 points where you're either right because it ends 20-17, or I get the late touchdown, whether it's a return or whatever, and I win. But I don't see this being like Notre Dame wins by 10 and it's an easy outright cover, or Ohio State wins by 21. I think this game is a 60-minute affair.
Yeah, and I think it's a good classic matchup. So all good. No SEC team. Don't cry about it, folks.
Don't cry about
it. Ohio State, 2 blue bloods in college football. Let's get it. I'm down. I'm happy for it.
Now we go to the NFL, but before we start bragging, we have to hit a point because there's just something to touch on here. And I'm going to ask you, because we all know I'm a Cowboy homer. Who is their next coach?
Emil, I have no idea. I don't know if I believe the Deion Sanders stuff. It would be kind of crazy given all the things that he's said. A, about not wanting to coach in the NFL. B, about really loving it in Colorado. Um, but hey, Dion plays the game, and what I can kind of, and maybe I catch some heat for this. What I can kind of get on board with is everyone's playing a game in college football, and I'm not just talking on the gridiron, right? The kids play games with the coaches as to whether or not they're going to come. The coaches play games with the players as to how much they're going to get paid, if you're going to start, the depth chart, if we really want you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Deion Sanders knows I have to play a game here. I either play a game with the kids or I play a game with the adults. And what I've noticed he has always opted to do more is play the game with the adults. So yes, I'm here for the long haul. I'll tell the athletic director that I see myself here for the foreseeable future. I can't see myself going anywhere else. Then the offer comes along and he's gone. It beats telling the kids that. I have seen some of the meetings where he talks to the players, and there's one specific video that I remember him saying to this group: in coaching, you are either elevate or you get fired. And that is so true, Emil. You either get in, do well somewhere, and try to move on to what the next step is, or you'll stay there long enough to have win 10 games, then win 8, and then win 7, and you're fired. Now you're carrying that around with you, the scarlet letter of I'm a fired coach. It's best to go 7 wins, 8 wins, 10 wins. I'm out. Move on to the next thing. Because in this day and age, in this climate, the adults, which are the fans, won't let you go to 10 and then come back down. Once you go to 10, you got to be at 11 and 12, and then you got to stay at 12. You've got to do the saving thing.
Yeah.
And who can do that anymore, Emil, in this NIL transfer portal era? I think dynasties are going to be tough to create.
I'm going to give you two lists. One is the probable list of what I think. And then 2 is what I think is the best list. The probable list, if I was a betting man in the clubhouse, knowing Jerry Jones, okay, my list would be what I think he has in mind or what he will do is, 1 would be Kellen Moore, which I think is a horrible hire.
It would be on brand, though. It
would be on brand. It was somebody you can control, thrill, knows the building, coach. He'll be happy with the pay raise. Kellen Moore has never impressed me. He might be a nice guy. The Eagles' passing game is rather pedestrian most weeks. The Chargers were pedestrian last year, so I'm not impressed. That would be number 1. Number 2 would probably be Jason Witten in probability, and only because it fits Jerry's brand again. Okay, now I'm not even saying Witten would be I don't know enough. He's won a couple state championships in high school. That's quite the jump, but he is a Hall of Fame player with a 17-year career. Football is football. I think he can figure out how to coach NFL players. Okay, he's not that old, so it's not like he's coming in with, he gets it. I'm not sure it'd be a horrible hire. 3 is Belichick in probability, and 4 is Dion. Now, in what I think would be the best, I would put Dion at the top and Belichick right behind him.
You think Dion and Jerry can coexist?
Yes, because here's the thing. Dion's a very straightforward guy and doesn't need the BS. So if it got to that point, he's not a wallflower. He would say what he had to say. And the other thing is, his brand is big enough. He's bigger than any player. He can walk into the locker room, and if he has to, say, all you guys are making money and standing on my shoulders and Michael Irvin's and Troy Aikman's because you haven't done crap. And not one of them could say anything because he's got a bunch of rings and he's in the Hall of Fame if they want to see him. Okay?
I think the part you said about the big brand is the problem. Like, can Jerry handle that?
Well, I'm saying I think if it got to that point, Jerry would be accepting of it. I also think Dion's the kind of guy who could have a frank conversation as a friend with Jerry and say, listen, I love you, you love me, but let's be honest. You've tried it your way for 29 years, and you haven't sniffed what I achieved when I was here. So do you want to try it my way? And Jerry, if he doesn't say that out loud and it's one-on-one, Jerry might realize the guy's right. I'm looking at an all-time great.
Oh, we've been, I'm not even a Cowboy fan, and I've been dying for over a decade for him to realize that. I'm obviously I've
It's
never
bad
been
for the sport.
I've never been a Cowboys fan, Emil, but definitely a big Jimmy Johnson fan, definitely a big Michael Irvin fan, and to watch the end of that era, and then what has happened since then. No, like
the
he
Cowboys
hasn't.
can't be what they are. They have to be the villain. If you're not a Cowboy fan, it's like not being a Yankee fan. The sport's better if the villain shows up and loses. At least you get to revel in their misery, but you don't want them to not even be relevant. If you're not a Laker fan, if you're a Celtic fan, you want the Lakers to be just good enough to lose to the Celtics. You don't want them to show up and be irrelevant.
No, I get that. Emil, how old is Jerry Jones?
82, but trust me, Jerry's going to be 110.
How many 82-year-olds change?
They don't.
I can't see a big personality there. He did try it with Parcells. It didn't work. So maybe he tries it again. I see another guy that
That's why I say 1 and 2 on my list are Deion and Belichick, because they have, if Jerry could somehow find it in his heart to realize this, I think both of those guys could be successful, because let's be honest, the Dallas roster is not barren.
No, it's not. There are obviously salaries on there that would indicate that, but it would be interesting to say the least. If nothing else, Jerry can attach himself to. We'll have all the headlines come hell or high water if I bring Deion or Bill in here. So,
but I gave you the probability. The probability is, if I'm betting, is Kellen Moore and Jason Witten, one or the other.
probably. All right, what do we got this week? Or how do we do
that? Last week, guys, like I said, you met your man in the Dunkin' Donuts or some pizzeria. He dropped you off a bag, or you went to Bovada and they sent you your money. But we were 5-1 in the pros. I mean, we absolutely destroyed it. You started off. You had an outright winner on the Texans. The Chargers chargered. That's what they did.
Yeah, they didn't get the "we need to do this for LA" memo, obviously. And for you, Justin Herbert apologists out there, I'm going to tell you something. Don't go looking up his playoff numbers. You will not like it.
Well, that's another thing, and we'll save that for an off-season show. The next time somebody tells me Lamar Jackson or Dak Prescott's a loser in the playoffs, okay, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, Justin, you're starting off this thing very Peyton Manning-ish. The good thing is you got time to fix it, but I don't want to hear all that BS right now. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
Then you went, and you got close in this one. This game, nothing happened in the fourth quarter. I thought you were going to backdoor this one. The Ravens dominated the game, but the Steelers got 9.5. They got the score to 28-14. And then it was like everybody was just happy. We're going fishing. You're going to Buffalo. See you later. Nothing happened in the fourth quarter. So you took your loss there. And then finally, they weren't pretty in doing it. But the Eagles took care of the Packers. I don't know what to say about Green Bay's effort.
You just got to be more careful with the ball, Jordan Love. You're young. You'll figure that out, hopefully. And
let's be fair. He was throwing to a depleted.
He was, no doubt. No doubt about it. You just want to see better decision-making, because I consider that to be the A number one thing for quarterbacks. So just tidy that up. I feel good with them going forward. It's just not their year.
So you were 2-1. Your record sits at 37-20, which is quite a bit of money and profit for our customers in the NFL. And
it's always good to be 17 games over 500.
And I have slowly and surely gotten into the profitable point myself. I was 3-0. My record sits
great NFL kickoff weekend.
No, my record sits at 30 wins, 26 losses, and a tie. So I'm 4 over. I had the Bills, easy winner, probably the easiest winner of the weekend, right? I had the Commanders. Tampa Bay managed to do what Tampa Bay usually does. I mean, they run into each other on a handoff, fumble. Next thing you know, you're back in the ball game. Commanders get the outright there on a doink. They did a Kansas City Chief. Yeah. And then finally, the Rams got the memo. They played for the city of Los Angeles. And
I just tell you how impressive Sean McVay is as a coach. I don't think this is stated enough. We talk a lot about some other people, not enough about Sean McVay, who Emil, I mean, I've got my pick coming up, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams ended up in the Super Bowl. I wouldn't be surprised.
From a coaching perspective, I have a man crush on Sean McVay. I think he's. I mean,
In all aspects, because he's good X's and O's. He seems to command the troops well. He has the respect of the old and young players in the locker room. He doesn't ever stick his foot in his mouth ever in a press conference. He doesn't embarrass the organization. Doesn't piss off the city or ever. You don't ever see him into it with a player. And he's had Odell Beckham.
Apologies
to Aaron Donald.
No.
He's had enough personalities there to have had a run-in. No problem.
No problem. Apologies to Andy Reid and John Harbaugh, but if you let me pick one NFL coach, I would take him.
Yeah, if you're telling me coach of the year in 2024 season, I'm giving it to Sean McVay. No matter what happens from this point forward, you just absolutely whipped the first ever 14-win wildcard team. You did it not on your home field because you had to leave and go to another state and play in one of your division rivals' stadium. There were so many things there that people would have understood if the Rams didn't put their best foot forward and lost the game. But not only did that not happen, you absolutely made the Vikings look like they were a team that had distractions at home and only won 10 games during the season. It looked like the Rams were the 14-3 football team and the Vikings were the 10-7 team that backdoored their way in.
I'll be honest, I was worried about the pick all weekend because I felt like, it's going to be hard for these guys to concentrate. I know they're pros, but man, they have everything that's going on. They're going to be out in Arizona thinking about home. And what they did to the Vikings, I mean, like you said, there's not enough good things to say about the guy. So that said, let's jump into the picks. You want me to go first?
Sure. Run it.
We'll start. We'll go Saturday, Sunday. I'll start first. I really don't. I think the Redskins had their time last week, and I think that time ends on Sunday. This is a game that, the Lions have the better roster. They've been here before, and they're rested. This game, to me, is the blowout of the weekend. I think this is the Bills game last weekend right here. I see the bunch of mistakes. I see the home crowd with Detroit knowing that they have home field throughout the playoffs. They're not going on the road. They're going to defend that home field. I think they'll put up a ton of points on that defense. And this one just feels like one of those 38 types, 17, 38, 17, 41, 17. The Lions love running the score up, which is a good thing because when you're laying 9.5 points in an NFL game, you got to find a team that loves to do that. They love to do it. Give me the Lions minus 9.5. Other game on Saturday. There's a bunch of guys out in LA right now, unfortunately, with all the tragedy out there, that have some time on their hands. They're script writers. They've huddled up. They're in their mom's house or their buddies, getting away from the fires, writing the script for Sunday. 8.5. That's not interesting. Nothing. You can't take the Chiefs. Something's going to, ball has to hit it upright. A toe has to go out of bounds. But one thing I know, when those things happen, the score is close. And I'm getting 8.5 points. So I'm going to take the Texans because they played Kansas City earlier this year. My buddy here loves losers on rematches. And they played that game tight, 27-19. That was the game they lost Tank Dell for the season. I think they come back here. It wouldn't surprise me if Patrick Mahomes needs to pull this out in the last couple of minutes.
Oh, wouldn't surprise you? Yeah. Well.
Not at all. So give me the Houston Texans plus 8.5. And then finally, this one I'm going to keep simple. I think whoever wins this game, I'm on record right now, unless there's an injury to a quarterback, whoever wins this game will be your Super Bowl champion. You feel me here?
I feel you. I definitely.
And here's the problem with what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell the audience, I'm not going to lie to you. I can see either team winning this game, but I'm going to be a man of conviction. When the season started, I had the Buffalo Bills defeating the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl back in August. I'm not getting to the final 8 and losing my conviction. I'm going to take the Bills plus 1 point at home to win this game and advance to the AFC Championship game.
All right, I got you. My man Emil thinks that Detroit is going to absolutely run through Washington. He thinks it's the big blowout of the weekend. He likes them -9.5. He thinks the script writers have cooked up something really good for us in Kansas City this weekend as the Houston Texans come to town. This game happened not too long ago, and Tank Dell got his knee ripped up. Maybe there's some feeling there for Houston to avenge the very beloved Tank Dell. He likes Texans +8.5. And then he is going to take the Buffalo Bills, who oddly enough are +1 dogs at home against Baltimore in what should probably be the game of the weekend. He takes them and thinks whoever wins this joint will be our Super Bowl champs. Not just in the Super Bowl, your Super Bowl champions. So says Emil. Here's what I'm going with. Emil, I'm going to agree with you right off rip and take Detroit in this game. It's very nice what the Commanders, we're calling them the Redskins here,
The Redskins
were able to do on the road against Tampa Bay. It was a beatable team. This is not what they have this week. I'm very leery of Jaden Daniels and his ability to make plays. I love what he's bringing to the table. I don't know that we've ever had a rookie quarterback this good. We'll see what the rest of his career is. But to come out, play the way that he did during the season, and then get into the playoffs and win a game, good. So season well done. You're going to Detroit now. These guys are physical. They bite kneecaps. They do what they need to do. And I really feel like Detroit feels like this is their time. And they're opening up with a home playoff game. They've got a bye week. They're getting a little more rested. I don't know that Washington is really ready for what's coming their way in terms of the physicality, the ability to run the ball, the ability to hit the tight ends. I just don't know that defensively they're ready for that. And I think a lot of what they got away with against Tampa Bay offensively, I don't know that they're going to have that against Detroit. Yes, Tampa Bay has a fast defense that's physical, but I just think the pressure that Detroit is going to be able to make. And then they have more playmakers in their secondary. So I could see a couple of untimely turnovers here for Washington. And I'm with you. This thing does have blowout written all over it. I could see it ending up 34-13. So give me Detroit as a 9.5 point favorite. I threw out all those superlatives for Sean McVay, and nothing about what I'm about to say takes any of that away. But now these Rams are going to head basically out on the road again, and now you're going into chilly temperatures. And I believe, Emil, and you would know this, you're in Pennsylvania, I think it's going to snow on Saturday. Not really the kind of game the Rams want, even though they can run the football. I got that. But, whether it snows or not, I know this. These two teams played this game earlier this year in Los Angeles, and the Eagles won it handily. And you know my feelings about rematches. But I will add to this. If the team that won the first time was on the road and won handily, I don't know how much is going to change in terms of the result when you now take the game to the winning team's home stadium. Oh, by the way, in a playoff game. Oh, by the way, it's outdoor stadium in their conditions. It's a nice season for the Rams. I just think it comes to an end here, and the odds makers didn't do them any favors. This is a very short line for the Philadelphia Eagles. Really expected it to be over 7. If you're going to take it under 7 like this and make it 5.5, I really have no choice but to go with the Eagles here. And then finally, Emil, like you, I put the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season in our preseason show. What scares the hell out of me is that the odds makers have made the Baltimore Ravens the favorites in this contest. And I think about it and I say, hey, what's the one team that could go into this stadium and handle the conditions, whether that be the weather or the noise? It's this team right here. These are two identical teams that could run the football. They both have mobile quarterbacks that will gut you with the run, but one of these teams plays slightly better defense than the other, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. You and I have both talked about our misgivings about Buffalo on defense. We saw what happened with
This is another rematch, by the way.
Yes, and they, there were a lot of points scored in that football game, which, by the way, was played in Baltimore. So I'm kind of maybe going against myself here a little bit, but I'm really concerned about Buffalo's defense, Emil. Even in the game last week, as handily as they wanted, there were some things going on there. Like, look how Bo Nix came out in that first series, rookie quarterback, and just went straight down the field. Something about Buffalo's defense bothers me in a game like this. I will say this to you. If I'm wrong about this pick and Buffalo is able to defeat Baltimore, I too feel like they're in that Super Bowl and have a really good chance of winning it. Now, there is a chance that they could get all the way there and it's Buffalo and Detroit, which would then be a rematch, and I'd have to really think about what happened in that first matchup. But right here, Emil, I feel like the odds makers know a little bit. I always defer to those odds makers. This is what they do. I fully expected Buffalo to be a favorite here. They've made Baltimore the favorite. I'm gonna roll with them here and ride with Baltimore -1.
So my friend and I are on the opposite end of that pick. He's going with the Baltimore Ravens -1 at Buffalo. We agree on the Lions. He's taking the -9.5, and he's got the Philadelphia Eagles from my state -5.5 over the Rams. Which, by the way, you made some great points. I watched a big chunk of that first game, and while
There's some guys missing for the Rams. True.
I'm not going to kid you. I want the Rams to win. You know, if I have a second team, it's the Rams. Everybody knows my affinity on who watches the show for LA. But the thing I don't see changing for the Rams in this game, and if they do, God bless them, I don't know how they stop the Eagles' running game. They didn't do it the first time. And, you know, I don't know.
Well, I don't know for the love of money why Minnesota didn't run the ball more. Like I told you, Sam's out there seeing ghosts. Hey, run the rock. Take some pressure off of this guy. Get him recentered, especially when he threw that pick, that outside pick. Like, get his bearings back and start running the ball.
There's some things happening in football at all levels, you know, big time college and pro, that I have to tell you, as a guy my age, I really don't understand anymore. Kicking field goals early in a game has become
lost our mind.
I mean, it's almost like I'm watching the game on Sunday. Washington's down 3-0. You go right down the field, 4th and 2 on the 20. The old days, kick the field goal, tie the game.
Emil, I have a running back that played for the team you're playing against. Like, I'm going to give him the rock. Cam Akers played for the Rams. He feels some kind of way. He got I don't know how many carries he had in this game, but I saw one that he ripped off a nice run. Feed that guy. Like, even when it's 10.
But I think, you know, again, this is more of a topic as we sign off for the offseason, because I think there is a certain amount of, like we've talked about, a lot of these guys feel like if I just run the ball, I'm not a genius.
Yeah, get over your egos. Listen, as a defensive coordinator, I used to love the ego guys. They really helped me because, you know, they were kind of predictable. And if you made them inch down the field and earn it, they didn't want to do it. They wanted to do it their way. So whatever the case may be. But that's it. We've got you squared away on the college football playoff and the second round of the NFL playoffs. So, hey, you take those things to the bank. We've given you the numbers here, all right? Both of us were smoking hot last week. We're both winners in the NFL, and we've come on strong here in college football. So, hey,
and even with our crappy college seasons, when you combine everything, we're still up.
Yeah, I realize that we're on opposite ends of the college football game. You guys figure out which one of us you want to trust, but I'm with Emil. I wouldn't put a ton on this game, just enough to have something on it because we know that's how it is. But don't go crazy. Save your money for the NFL on Saturday and Sunday. And even if you go big and you win Saturday and Sunday, don't take all your profits and throw it on this college football game either way. All right, that's going to be it for us. We'll come back next week and tally up the sheet, see how we did. And if any, you know, I'm sure there'll be topics that'll pop up. We'll cover them here for you on the Two Chumps Football Podcast. Make sure you check out our sponsor, Bovada Sportsbook, the oldest and safest operating sportsbook online. Hit the link in the description. And, of course, subscribe to the show if you haven't already so you don't miss out on the great shows that we're putting out.
Or you can see Vinny at Luigi's Pizzeria. He'll be there on Wednesday morning.
Head to the back, and he gave you lines like the Lions -12. All right, those are your options. But until now, and here's one more option. Have some fun checking out the games this weekend, and we'll be back with you next week. For Emil Calamino, I'm Chad Wilson. Thanks for watching and listening to the Two Chumps Football Podcast. We'll talk to you guys next week.